I think we'll go ahead and get this kicked off here. I know we have people that are still joining, but welcome everyone. My name is Beth Gall. I am president-elect for the Greater Kansas City HIMSS chapter. And for those of you who are not familiar with HIMSS, it's a nationwide organization primarily focusing on healthcare IT, but we today have a really open discussion that's going to involve more about the hiring aspect. And we've got some really great industry leaders who can help shed some light on some of the challenges they face. And we're just hoping that we'll have a really great open discussion here. Before we get kicked off, I do want to mention that we are always looking for volunteers. We are a very fun group of people. We get together once a month usually, but we're always looking for folks to join our board. And we have a lot of different areas that you can help support. This is our programming aspect. I like programming because we get to talk about a lot of different things and basically industry trends, those buzzwords that we all get to hear and talk about. But we also have everything from sponsorships, membership, and overall just engaging within our community on how we can better educate on various topics. If you guys have any questions on anything, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Taylor. We'll make sure you have our contact information. You can always follow us on LinkedIn. I think it's GKC HIMSS is our LinkedIn page, and we're pretty active there. Sign up for our emails. And just a quick plug for anyone in a healthcare organization here in Kansas City. Most of those are organizational affiliates, which means that you would have a free membership for HIMSS. So check those things out. And I'm going to go ahead and get things kicked off over to Taylor, who's our programming chair and is going to run this call. So thanks again for joining and hope you enjoy the discussion.
Thank you, Beth. So to kick us off today, just as a reminder, this call is regarding the Great Resignation. So we've seen a significant change over the last year or 18 months with a large amount of people leaving their existing positions, looking for something new, pivoting to different industries, and this is occurring for a variety of reasons. For those that are doing that or are interested in updating their current profiles, we have Bethany Splide here. Bethany is going to kick us off. She's going to have the first half of today's call. She specializes in marketing and branding. She is a leader in her space and offers a 3-hour course at JCCC. She has so generously offered to shrink that down to a high-level overview for the next 25 minutes. If you'd like to connect with her, she's offered so nicely to be available via LinkedIn, but I'll go ahead and pass it off to Bethany.
Thanks, Taylor, and great to be with everybody today. I am going to pop open my PowerPoint here, just a few slides. I promise I won't kill you with PowerPoint. So this is going to be a high impact 25 minutes to get you through to understand what you need in your profile on LinkedIn. There's so much packed into LinkedIn. Like Taylor said, the smallest workshop I do is 3 hours. We can talk about this for up to 8 hours if you would really like to. There's just so much in here, but we're going to hone in on that profile because that's where everything starts. And like Holly Paul said, it's no longer enough to simply have a solid resume. Students or individuals now need a professional online presence. Hence, LinkedIn is perfect. There are over 760 million professionals on LinkedIn, 1.5 million healthcare professionals, and there are over 3 million jobs posted every month, over 5,000 in the US that are in healthcare IT jobs. And 3 people are hired every minute from LinkedIn. And there are over 60,000 college and alumni groups on LinkedIn. And finally, most people see LinkedIn as a job seeker platform. And it's actually, that's just a fraction of what LinkedIn has to offer. It's a great place to network and continue to grow yourself in your industry, make those connections, stay on top of your network. As we know, we usually find jobs through people we know and people that know about us. So instead of just being another number, having those connections is very valuable. But on this last statistic, there are actually 15 times more pieces of content that are just content and not job postings. So like I said, a lot of people think it's only for job seekers and you only come to LinkedIn when you need a job, but that's so far from the reality. And then why your profile matters. These are just some powerful tidbits, and I'll actually bring them up as we're going through the profile in a live demo. But members with complete profiles, that means every section of your profile is complete, are 40 times more likely to receive opportunities through LinkedIn. A profile with a picture is 11 times more likely to be viewed. So get that headshot, professional headshot. And then profiles with more than one job listed, so that means your work history, are 12 times more likely to be viewed than those with just their current position. Members with 5 skills listed in that skills section on your profile are 27 times more likely to be discovered in LinkedIn searches. So that's an organic search. Somebody might be looking for you. And then there are about 20 million company pages on LinkedIn, and around 14 million jobs posted on the site at any given time. So pretty impressive. Let's go ahead and get this demo started. So as you can see, this is the home page when you first sign in, but we're going to go directly to the profile. Are you guys ready for this? Seatbelts on? Okay, so this very first top section is the banner, your cover image. I highly recommend that you have something there that represents your brand. It could be colors or just a professional clean image in the background. You can see that I created one with my name and one of my titles in there with my company logo in the corner. A great resource for creating something like this is Canva. It's a free platform where you can do design work, and you just type in LinkedIn banner and then create your banner. They have quite a few templates that you can work from, and then you can download it and upload it right into here. And anytime that I say that you can edit something, what I'm referring to is this little pencil icon. So that pencil icon clues you in that you can change that area. And the next step is that profile picture. So like I mentioned in that previous screen, as far as that's how you get that attention that people will actually click on your profile when there's a profile image. So it's kind of like the first impression when you're at a networking event, you see somebody, like there's a visual that you can put an imprint in your mind of who they are. So make sure that's a clean headshot. I know at Johnson County, they're working on getting some kind of lab that you can actually have your professional photo taken there. That could be a resource to check out. Otherwise, have a friend take a picture with a clean blank background. Use the portrait setting on your photo if you have that on your camera. And then this next section is your headline area. And you can see that I have different descriptions. You'll want to pack this with keywords and key phrases. So yours would be healthcare IT most likely. And then if you have some kind of a sales pitch or a tagline that you want to put in there as far as what you help a company achieve, you could also add that at the end. And again, I just click on this pencil icon. And come in here and you can see the headline. I usually get the question, how do you do that vertical bar in between each subject or each phrase? It's called a pipeline bar, and it's the key that's right below your backspace key on your desktop, your laptop, your keyboard, and you click shift and that button. Is everybody doing well? I feel like I'm fire hosing you because there's just so much in here. And then the next parts down, you'll see that there are different aspects as far as where you live. So if you're planning on transitioning, moving somewhere else, be sure you update this because this will impact what kind of opportunities and even potential networking people you may know. A great way to connect and build your network if you are moving. So if you're moving to Chicago, make sure you put that in there maybe a month or two before you move. So then you can start getting acclimated to the events that are around there. And then at the very bottom, this is a very strategic point in here where it says profile URL, websites, phone, email. At the very bottom, there's another pencil. So it's like a pencil within a pencil that you're editing here. When you come in here, by default, it will have like company or personal as the description. And watch this. So if I click on company, it eliminates that third row. So you want to click on other and actually type in what the name of that website is. And this allows, I see there's a quiz in there if you guys are full. So this allows you to get extra keywords and phrases in your profile in a very strategic way, if you can actually name your websites. If that is in here, your birth date, pretty straightforward. I'm going to close out of this section. I am not saving, but you would want to save. And then this other part, as far as a branding feature on your profile, is this edit public profile and URL in the top right corner. Can everybody still see my screen? Because I know it popped open a new tab. Okay, so it should say public profile settings at the top, if that's the screen you're hopefully seeing. And from here in the top right corner, it says edit your custom URL. When I click on that, I can type in my first and last name, first name, middle initial, last name, and that allows you to have a very clean URL for your business cards, for your signature on your emails, etc. You can put it on your resume even, and by default, there's usually a bunch of letters and numbers at the end of that URL.
And Bethany, I'm not seeing what you're showing right now.
Okay, thank you. Let me reshare. Sometimes it does that when I pop open
Right.
the screen. Okay, can you see it now?
The edit my profile.
In the top right corner, you see it?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you for letting me know. That's what it looks like in this top right corner. No special characters, first name, last name. If you have a common name, try to do something clever as far as your middle initial, or you can even put capital K, capital C for Kansas City, if you're from Kansas City. And then as you scroll down, when you fill out more areas of your profile, then you get the option of making that public or not. So if it's public, that means somebody that's not connected with me can still see it. If I turn it off, like you'll see some of mine I have turned off, like publications and recommendations and groups, I have those hidden. So when somebody connects with me, they can see those aspects of my profile. And of course, there's a preview on the left-hand side of what that would look like. Closing out of that, might have to reshare. One moment. That's always fun. Okay, there we go. Now we're back on the main profile. So again, in that top right corner, that's when it pops open a new tab. Then I'll keep coming down and you'll notice that this section right here that's in a faded blue, it says your dashboard. Only you're getting behind the scenes here. You get to see what my dashboard looks like, and that would be the same for you. And you'll want to have your status at all-star status, because that means your profile is 100% complete. And like that statistic, as far as your profile showing up 40 times more than if you didn't have your profile complete. Also for Google search engine optimization, if your profile is 100% complete, when somebody searches for your name in Google, LinkedIn will show up a little bit higher in the results. And when they click on your profile, it will go directly to your profile. And the same thing within LinkedIn, you'll appear higher in the search engine results. Versus if it's not complete on Google, you'll show up a little bit lower. When somebody clicks on what appears to be your profile for LinkedIn, it will go to another search results page within LinkedIn. So it's an extra click for whoever that person is. And you can see that you get analytics as far as who's viewed your profile, which is really encouraging, assuming that a recruiter has their settings open and allows you to see that they've looked at your profile. So that could be encouraging. And another point to connect with somebody, if you notice, maybe it's a company that you're really wanting to work for and somebody's checking out your profile, you could send a message just to, inquire about their position, what they do at the company. And then you can see the other statistics, number of post views and how many times I've appeared in search results. And then we'll keep moving down. I know I'm fire hosing you. You guys are doing great. I haven't seen people drop off. So this next section is the about section. And you get up to 3,000 characters. I don't recommend you use all 3,000, but this is a summary of your experience, what you hope to do. If you're a student, you can talk about the training that you're receiving and what you hope to do in the future. You can write it in first or third person. I'm planning on rewriting mine into first person. Just when I had written this one, it was more for keywords and getting my name in there. But either one you can use. And a key tip here is at the very bottom of this section, actually write out the heading areas of strength or expertise and list out some of those strengths that you have or certifications, that phrases that somebody else might be searching for. You know, kind of get in the head of a recruiter or some of these HR professionals. What are they going to be searching for that you need to make sure is in your profile? Some of those keywords. Obviously, you can see mine are more around marketing and professional development type of things. Next section down is the featured section. So this is where you can highlight almost kind of like an e-portfolio. So if there's different projects you've worked on over the course of your college days or at the current position that you're at, go ahead and feature that right here. And you click on the plus sign. It can be posts that you've shared on LinkedIn, articles that you've written on LinkedIn, links that go out to the website, wherever you have a project featured. Maybe it's a press release, some kind of award that you won, and then you can also upload media. So maybe it's a PowerPoint presentation, a poster that you designed, other documents, even a YouTube video. If you wanted to drop in some video of you presenting, you can do that. And so in here, you'll see I have a mix. This one's actually a YouTube video, and then I have an article and a link to a press release, kind of a mix of everything.
Hey, Bethany,
Yes.
we have a question in the chat regarding the about section.
Okay.
The question is, why is the use of pronouns discouraged by some career advisors when completing the about section of a profile?
You know, that's a good question, because I feel like there's not really a cookie cutter answer. As you go through LinkedIn, and even people in your industry, check out their profiles and you'll see that there's different ways that people write their biographies. But I would say make that personal. Like when I redo mine, I'm going to write it as if I'm speaking to the reader. Does that help?
I don't see any feedback from Linda, but I'm going to say yes, and I'll circle back with her just to make sure her question was fully answered.
Okay, very good. And like I said, just keep an eye out and you might get some ideas on how you want to format your about section. You can do a mission statement in there, talk about why you got into this field. There's a great TED Talk, it's pretty old, by Simon Sinek, and hopefully by now everybody's heard of it. It's called The Power of Why. And if you haven't, go check that out after these sessions. And it will help you understand communication when you're telling somebody why you do what you do, and it sets you apart. So if you can identify that and write in that regard, that would be a tip. And then next down is activity. So this shows me if I'm looking at somebody else's profile that they're active on LinkedIn. I can see if somebody's commenting, I can see if they're posting, I can see what they're interested in. So keep that in mind that this is showing up on your profile. So you want to be active in your network. So if a recruiter came to your profile, they can see, wow, she's reading these articles, she's asking really good questions to the authors of these articles, etc. This is part of your brand, is your activity. And then the next part down here is experience, very straightforward. So you want to have not just your current position, but list your previous employers as well. And the format for this, let me go to a past work experience. So even if it seems like it's unrelated, I played professional volleyball after college. So you would think like, how does that tie into any kind of professional career? So I described what the company, well, the team was about, and then I tied it back to what I do today. So yes, even my experience as a professional volleyball player has helped me excel in the social media industry. So again, this is a strategic way to get more keywords and phrases in there that are relevant to today, even though this is a past work experience. And for the recruiter, it's connecting the dots, how that skill set or that work applies to what you're doing today. So for the people that are looking to transition or pivot their career, this is very strategic. And then education, straightforward. If you went to a college for like 1 year, 2 year, and then you finish somewhere else, go ahead and list it. This is kind of like, it's not like the resume where you want to put the college where you finished. When you put both universities, that allows you access to the alumni at both universities on LinkedIn. So when you're looking for jobs, it will give you a little note that says 3 alumni from University of Nebraska at Kearney work here. So that's usually it's a warm connection if you see that there's an alum that works somewhere, because you can reach out to them, say, hey, saw you went here, just strikes up a conversation because there's commonality. And then any other training, keep scrolling down, licenses and certifications, volunteer experience. Some of these sections you might not see by default, but if you look at the top, excuse me, of your screen or your profile, there's a button that says add section. And under there, you'll see there's so many different areas. So if you have patents that you've worked on, courses that you've taken, publications, projects, etc., you can add those to your profile. LinkedIn has done a fabulous job of continuing to innovate. And then this is a skills section that I had mentioned. Very important, get at least 5 skills in here. If not more, you can have up to 50, and then feature your top 3 at the top here. So you can click on add a new skill. You can take a skill quiz. And then if you just click the pencil icon, if you pin, you can pin 3 of your top skills at the top. And then you'll see there's so many others, but I'm just featuring 3. Highly recommend doing this part. Originally, when this came out, I asked recruiters, what do you think about this section? And it was kind of a 50-50 split. Some said it's kind of like confetti because it's so easy. Anybody can say, yeah, they have that skill, and maybe have never seen them use this skill. And then the other 50% said, hey, if that person has at least 40 people endorsing them, they most likely have the skill. And this does connect to when you search for jobs on LinkedIn, a lot of the companies will say what skills they're looking for, and that connects to this section. So it'll say, you have 9 out of 10 of the skills that this company is looking for. So that could be an idea for you, is to go look for the jobs that you're most interested in, look at the skills that they have listed, and make sure if it's relevant that you actually have the skill, that you have those listed here.
Okay, Bethany, we have one more question from the group.
Absolutely.
Linda asked, could you please share some insight on the value of quantifying experience? For example, moderated 3 meetings a week or led a team of 5, etc. Is there value in listing it out?
So that makes it like a resume, and you can upload that to your featured section. But for LinkedIn, you want it to be a little bit more conversational. So let me go back up to that section and go into more detail. So for example, in this role as a marketing assistant, I would say use the first paragraph, first sentence or 2, keep them small, to describe what the company is about, who they serve. In the next paragraph, talk about what your role was at that company. So putting in some of those keywords, the things that you were responsible for, but it's not so much bullet point list, because they can see that on your resume. It's just more keywords, key phrases. And then the last paragraph, if it's a past work experience, that's where you can bring in how that's relevant today. So needless to say that this experience deemed to be priceless and how it has served me in my various career roles. So I hope that helps. That's just, again, another format. Pay attention to your industry. And if you're noticing that others are listing their bullet points, to me, it takes just a little bit more effort to put it into a paragraph and keep it clean. And maybe one of the recruiters can comment on that in the panel, what they prefer to see on the profile. And then the sections at the bottom, you have recommendations. So you'll want to get a couple of those recommendations under your belt. The person has to be on LinkedIn. So if you received a wonderful recommendation and they emailed it to you, just ask them through LinkedIn to copy and paste that in here. And you have control over which ones are showing and which ones don't show. So if somebody didn't write one that was, a great reflection of your work, where you just have better ones, you can showcase those instead. And I would recommend having bosses write recommendations, having peers, and even people that you've led on teams. And then you have an accomplishment section, if that's a section that you choose to put in here. And then interest. Interest are the pages, the people that you follow on LinkedIn. And that is such a fire hose, but that takes you through a LinkedIn profile to make sure that your profile is 100% complete. And I realize that we are at the 25-minute mark. So.
Hey, Bethany, that was excellent. I threw up that poll and thank you for going with it. I know that was a surprise. Just curious to see from our participants, how many people have a truly complete profile, how many have that banner and those keywords highlighted, and about, I would say the majority do not have the headline or that cover image. So that's definitely something we can improve on. And I think giving those resources of Canva and highlighting what's supposed to go where was extremely helpful for me. And based on the chat, it seems like it was helpful for others as well.
Awesome. I love hearing that. And I so appreciate everybody hanging in there. I barely took a breath. I'll actually take a breath now. And so for anybody that didn't get those notes written down, I went ahead and created like a free little download where you can download a booklet that talks about those different sections of your profile. So if I was in your shoes on the other side of the screen, I think that would be way too fast to write.
Thank you so much. I'll be sure to send this out with the link to everyone that attended today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Sure. Thank you. All right, now we are going to transition over to our panelists. So if all of our panelists can share their cameras, have their cameras on, which they do, awesome. We are going to focus our panel on the current market and how the Great Resignation has impacted each one of their fields and get some insight on their respective areas. So what I would like to see is for each one of our panelists, starting with Casey, to introduce themselves, say who they are, what they do, and where they work.
Sure. Hi, I'm Casey Wright. I am the president of Chief of Staff KC, which is a local recruiting firm. We specialize in finance and accounting, administrative, sales and operations, and HR, but we partner with a lot of other firms in town for various other needs, and totally industry agnostic. We work from small little mom and pop shops here in town to multi-billion-dollar companies and everything else in between. Really pride ourselves in trying to work with as many locally owned or at least locally operated organizations as possible, because that's what we are, and like to take care of our own. I've been in the recruiting industry for 15 years. I've got a team of 12 here now. I'm a player coach, though. I still love the recruiting, and I love working a desk, as we call it in the industry. But I bought this company 2 years ago, and so I've got a lot of other things that I'm dealing with as well. But what fills my heart is getting out there and talking to people and helping make connections and helping give advice to put them on the right path in their careers.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul,
Sure.
same questions. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Paul Link. I'm the Senior Director of the PMO and Product Strategy team at a company called Track My Solutions. We are a local Kansas City healthcare IT company, founded just a few years ago. So we're still a relatively new company, but we've grown immensely in the past year with a lot of our solutions that are built for vaccine administration as well as the vaccine tracking. So we work with individuals, companies, groups of higher education around pretty much everything related to COVID at this point. So while the challenge for us is we've grown immensely from software we've developed around COVID and helping companies manage it, but it's a time of what are we going to do next once all that comes to an end. So that's our big challenge, but it is a small company, around 25 to 30 people. Like I said, still growing, but we are 100% remote. So while we're based here in Kansas City, we have employees all across the country. So when we're networking and looking for individuals to grow our team, the interesting thing about us is we have the whole country to choose from. So we're not asking anyone to come to an office. So it's a very different challenge for us in terms of when we are adding to our team. Really, when we post a job on LinkedIn, we get applicants from across the country, and obviously doing web interviews and growing the team that way. So it's a great time to be in healthcare, but it's also a very challenging time as there's a lot of transitioning. So that's here, kind of what we're going to talk about here.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And Michelle?
I can follow Paul on that. I'm Michelle Zeck. I am the Vice President of Human Resources for Advent Health for our Mid-America region. We have 3 hospitals now within the KC region, which would be Shawnee Mission, South Overland Park, which is brand new, and Ottawa. And we also have a facility up in Durand, Wisconsin. And as Paul was stating, we also, primarily our staff is on site. However, we do have a lot of remote workers, and we do have remote workers who work for actually under Shawnee Mission across the country. So our industry is definitely changing. To say it's a good time to be in healthcare, it depends on what position you're in. From an HR professional, it is extremely stressful at the moment. And I know we'll get into that in a little bit, but when you're looking at COVID vaccines and stuff like that, which we're involved in as well, it definitely is. We continue to morph and change. Absolutely.
Well, that brings us to our first question for the panel. And anyone that's attending, if you guys have a question, please feel free to pop it into the chat, and I will pose it to the group. So to just start, we've all kind of talked about how the market has shifted. What factors do you think have contributed to the resignation rates over the last year? Do you think it's related to fatigue? Frontline workers are tired? Do you think people are examining what happened during the pandemic and shifting their priorities? What do you think has really contributed to this high resignation rate? Casey, since you smiled, you can start.
Thanks, putting on the spot. It is a loaded question. I think there's a multitude of reasons. I do think the ability to work from home so I say the ability. In some cases, the ability to work from home, and in some cases, the requirement to work from home has very much changed people's perspectives on what's realistic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we had our clients completely stop interviewing, hiring, anything. There wasn't it went from very, very busy and great revenue coming in to literally zero for almost 2 months. And then all of a sudden people are like, well, wait a minute, we can do this. Zoom's been around, and other forms of virtual communication have been around for a long time, but I think it's a relatively small percentage of people, especially here in the Midwest. I think if you go to the coast, they're probably a little more technologically advanced or at least progressive with it. And so, after a few weeks of people banging their head against the wall, like, what are we going to do? We're short staffed. I'm like, well, get on the computer and talk to them, which was just a novel idea a year and a half ago. And now it's like, well, who doesn't do this frequently? Every single one of us does. So the world's changed. It's changed tremendously in the past year and a half. And it's going to continue to evolve too. But I think it's just these perspectives. People realize that it doesn't have to be get in your car and drive to an office and be there by 8 a.m. sharp and leave at 5 p.m. sharp. There's a whole variety of different ways to be a contributing factor and contributing member of a team. And I think that's opened people's eyes to different options.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just like I mentioned, when we grow our team, we can recruit the entire country. It's the same as true for anyone looking for a job. Many people who want to work in a certain industry, but you only had a couple companies in your city in that industry, you now have every company across the country essentially to choose from. So you don't have to move or relocate to go find a great opportunity out there. So that, I think that's definitely contributing. Along with, I do think, especially in healthcare, and Michelle, I don't want to speak for you, but some people that were maybe getting closer to retirement did it a couple of years early. And so that's increased the resignation rates due to people, the high stress of either having to work from home now that they don't enjoy it as much, so that maybe they've kind of stopped their careers a couple of years short, just to go ahead and retire a little bit early.
No, agreed. That's definitely was on my list. Early retirement, or those who may have, worked, till later in their career and just saying, you know what, this is just too much for me. But, being like a small city, we have everything. We don't have, just nursing. We have everything from, as Taylor can attest to, IT, but we also have food, nutrition. We have environmental services, facilities, finance, pretty much anything you could find. And I would say that that part of our challenge has been, especially in nutrition, and trying to find a cook is crazy right now. But we have to feed our patients. So we have cooks that have left to go drive trucks for, a six-figure income. And it's kind of hard to compete with that when, when you have a trucking company who's willing to pay that money. So, people looking to change careers, but I think part of our challenge is price point for what people are paying now. And it's the competition in pay, across industries, which is, companies have to pay for it somehow. So that's what's also leading to increased prices for goods and services. So, but I would say that, and people are just tired. They are just, tired from the last 18 months, and, may say, you know what, healthcare is not for me. I want to move on to a different industry. But we're also in that case looking for those people who have that passion for healthcare as well.
For sure. That rolls us right into the next question, which we're talking about that workers market. So if you have someone that went from being in nutrition services and was able to pivot to a different area and maybe double or triple their income, how has the workers market affected your hiring strategies? I know we talked a little bit in our pre-event meeting about offering jobs multiple times to individuals without being able to actually hire someone. So in each of your respective areas, whether it's a smaller company, a large one like Michelle, or as a recruiting agency, Casey, how has this workers market affected your hiring strategies?
Can I go first? Because I want to go with what Laura stated. Sorry, Casey.
You're good. I was hoping you would take over.
No, Laura, hey, you know what? What are you looking for? We'd like to talk. She says, if there's a great resignation, is there a great hiring occurring? I've been looking for work since July after being laid off, and I'm not finding a lot of opportunities. I love to talk to you. I don't know what you're looking for. But I would say that, it's looking at our hiring strategies. It's looking at, how do we, I would say the market looks different. The market's continuously shifting right now as far as market pay. So it's very challenging. But one of the things that we're looking really at is how can we encourage people who want to become part of the healthcare industry? How can we bring them on and help pay for their education from day one? How do we make that happen? And how do we continually look at career pathing in order to keep people engaged, and also ask what they want to do, from day one? What is it that you're looking to do down the road? And, coach them and mentor them towards that possibility. So I think being nimble, asking people what they are looking for and trying to make that happen will absolutely be your best friend.
Sure. I will piggyback off that, Michelle. I think being nimble and being creative and knowing that it's always evolving. When you ask how hiring's changed for me, I'm going to relay that, or I'm going to shift that, not for me internally, but for our clients that are hiring through us. And it's just, it is a very hot market right now, a very hot hiring market. I'm always a little cautious on how I word that though, because I see the comments in the chat section, like, hey, I'm looking, everyone says a hot market, I haven't found anything yet. It's still very specific though. It's still very specific. And I compare it to the real estate market all the time. And my industry is very, very similar to real estate in many ways. It's like the housing market is as hot as it's ever been too right now, or it's maybe tapering off depending on where you are. But if you're trying, maybe that's extremely hot for $150,000 to $300,000 houses. But maybe not so much for $500,000, $800,000 houses. And maybe it's super hot for over $1 million houses too. It's the same with the job market. It's we're celebrating literally today our 10th anniversary as a company, and we're going to more than triple our best year ever. Which there's a million different reasons for that. It's great, but I'm reluctant to say that to people because there's all sorts of people that are looking for a job that we don't have anything for them right now. And it's not that they're not good. It's not that they're not talented. It's just the demand is the demand. And it may be 50-fold in one area and actually has dipped in another area for, various reasons. And so I have to, my background in psychology, I have to act as a therapist a lot of times for people because people start beating themselves up over it. Like, what the heck? Why can't I get anything? Everyone says it's a hot market. You can't have that mindset. That's it. It's not even close to accurate portrayal or depiction of who you are. It's you need to figure out where the hot areas are and gravitate towards them as best you can. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the thoughts that was going through my mind. So.
Yeah, and from our perspective, being a small company, we're more geared towards finding individuals who want a more entrepreneurial spirit, who are open to a challenge, and are ready to jump into a job that's going to have less structure. Because as a young company, we don't have everything figured out. I'll be the first to admit it. But someone who can embrace that challenge of knowing that you're gonna almost create your role as you do it, and it can't be exactly explained to you. So. And as Michelle said, we can only afford so much as a young company as well. So the market is, while it is extremely hot in some areas, and they can pay people a lot more money right now, in some areas it's not so much. While there's still a need for individuals, it's about what's available from a pay perspective as well. So again, we're always looking for people who want that challenge to grow their career and to be a part of a small company to make a big difference. And to feel like they can make a difference on the bottom line when the year ends. So
based on what you guys are saying, it sounds super helpful, but for our team members and members of our organization that are maybe putting themselves out there and not finding or getting the traction that they're looking for from an employer perspective, what exactly needs to be highlighted in either their resumes or their LinkedIn profiles that will make them stand out from the competition?
I would think from my perspective, I would say absolutely being open. If you put through a resume that's extremely specific and you're looking for one particular role, that's going to that's going to limit your possibilities. So if you're willing to look at, I would say that there's a lot of people who come out of school and think that they should be in management. Well, that's not going to happen. If it does, good luck to you. But that takes, that really takes experience. So if you're that person who wants a management role, be willing to take a customer service position in the area that you want to work in, the area that you want to be developed in. Don't be afraid, because actually that leads you credibility as you work with a team, and it also can showcase your skills to your employer. So I would say, specificity can sometimes be a challenge. I would also say that that if you're looking for, people, to Casey and Paul's points, are looking for very high salaries right now. Well, not all positions pay, astronomical wages, and we have to be equitable with where our workforce is at the moment too, to make sure that we're not, treating people differently. So, I think somebody put in there about negotiation tips. Well, we have, we can only go up so high so as not to hurt our internal equity with our staff that's already here. So know that not everybody can pay astronomical wages. Some companies can, but in our case, we have a way of making sure that we are consistent and equitable.
And I think when it comes to negotiation tips, a lot of what you can find out before you're hired is what is the ceiling for the role that you're going for. And while you might not get the peak of it when you're hired, knowing what role you're going into and what the range is in terms of what that company pays, I think is fair to you to ask. In case you can correct me if you think differently. But and honestly, I think one of the questions earlier was around that I saw was around what's a good place to know the current salaries. I've always, from the recruiters I know, the recruiters are the best people that are going to tell you what the industry is paying. Glassdoor and those other sites where they can see a range, anyone could put any number in there, essentially. So I've always looked to the recruiters I know, even when we're hiring, what should I expect to pay someone should come from a recruiter, because they're the ones that know who's getting hired and what they're getting paid.
Yeah. I mean, again, back to the real estate comparison, it changes all the time, every week, every day, sometimes even. The other day I had somebody that was looking for about $65,000 and she would have been thrilled with that. So we told our client, somewhere around 65, a little higher, she'd be great. Well, so they make her an offer a week and a half later and they made her 68, thinking it was going to be a slam dunk. They came on strong. Well, from the time we sent her resume, over the next 13, 14 days, she had 7 other companies that were interested in her. 68 ended up being the lowest offer. So she ended up taking one at 82,000. Now, if they would have, made her an offer right away, and I'm not saying she should have taken it, but she probably would have because there was nothing to compare and contrast. So it's just, a lot of people rely on salary guides. I've never been a big fan of them because I think they're outdated by the time they're printed personally. And yeah, we can give real life examples. Kind of what you were talking about earlier, Michelle, it's like, it's not necessarily what's just on the resume or what's on the, LinkedIn. Yes, those make a difference. I commonly tell people that I place people, not paper. and a lot of it is just going in there with an open mind. I think people get so hung up sometimes on reading through a job description and they look at the 400th bullet point, like, oh, well, I haven't done that before, so I don't even want to apply. I say job descriptions are a starting point. You can't look at it like it's the gospel. It's something to start with. And most every job that I've ever filled in 15 years now has evolved. What a lot of times people think they are looking for one level and then they start interviewing like, actually, that might be a little too heavy for our needs or too light for our needs, or, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize we could get this skill set, in this role too. So then it evolves. So I tell people, I said, go on a first date. You're not getting married. Go have a conversation, at least get your foot in the door with the company. The one other thing along those lines that I was thinking of is I find Kansas City to be a tremendously willing to help community. Like more so, I genuinely believe than most anywhere else in the country. But the one thing with that is you need to explicitly tell people that you want their help. People oftentimes I notice won't reach out and offer help to friends and family and whatever because they don't want to be presumptuous. For example, I've placed many people throughout my career to go work for someone they already know, an aunt or an uncle, a former colleague, a golfing buddy, whoever it is, someone you go to church with. And it's because people don't think to look beneath their very nose. But also that initial conversation, that initial call, there's a guy I placed just about a month ago where he ended up working for the guy that was his subordinate in a job 12 years prior. He didn't want to reach out to him because he didn't want to be offensive. He had no idea what his compensation was at that point, but it actually worked out perfectly. And where the other guy had kind of fast tracked his career, and I don't want to say leapfrogged in a negative sense, but that's how it worked. He never would have reached out to that guy though, because he was his buddy and didn't want to offend him. Then he calls me. I'm like, well, yeah, I know this guy. So if you're actively looking, talk to everyone you know and be fairly aggressive about it. Be like, hey, I'm putting my feelers out there. If you ever hear of anything, you'll be shocked how many people are willing to do whatever it is they can to help out.
Thank you guys. In the chat, we have a couple of statements. First, I'll circle back to the one above this question, but any specific advice when looking for a remote position? I'm looking to relocate from a small town with very few local opportunities in public health and healthcare IT.
I would definitely say, you know what? Look at large healthcare systems job boards. Advent Health, we're based in Orlando, but we have Advent Health facilities in Texas and in Georgia and here in Kansas City. And if you look, you're probably going to find some remote possibilities that are actually listed on the job board.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The job board, looking for the large organization. I think you'll get a sense for what's out there by looking for some of the larger groups as well. And if you want to go for a smaller company, you can whittle it down from there, but looking with the larger ones to see what's out there is a great spot to start.
Do you guys think, based on this question, that the appetite for perks like remote working or hybrid schedules, increased salary requests, things like that will continue? Or do you think I know this pandemic is nowhere near over, but as the market shifts or swings in another direction, that things will go back to being a little bit more stable?
Boy, I
Go
would
ahead.
hope so.
Yeah, I mean, it will never be the same. I think we can all say yes to that. It will never be the same. I think a lot of companies see tremendous benefit from fully remote teams, but they also know the struggles of the different levels or the different responsibilities now of management to manage a fully remote team, especially with new employees. It's one of the most difficult things to do is when you have a new employee who's fully remote and you're trying to embrace them in a team. You can't sit in a room anymore and all work together. You're constantly scheduling extra meetings, extra video calls to kind of help them along and get them up to speed as quickly as possible. So I think that will continue, but I do think the more established, larger companies will start to bring people more back to the office on a regular basis, as this goes away.
Back to the point I was making earlier, I think you have to be adaptable. I was talking to a lady 2 nights ago who perfect fit for this job that I'm working on. And we get towards the end of the conversation and I think it's, bump set spike. This is going to be great. We're going to, place her with our client. She goes, well, let me ask you, is it work from home? Is it remote? Are they requiring you in every day? And as I start to answer, I'm thinking she wants to be fully remote. I know she's currently fully remote in her job. 6-8 months ago, 90%, 95% of people were still asking to be fully remote or the vast majority of the time remote. And before I get a chance to answer, she goes, because I'm so tired of being fully remote, like I can't get an answer from my team. I used to be able to just go next door and ask them. I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, they'll let you work in the office. She was afraid they wouldn't even allow her into the office. Whereas I was anticipating the conversation going the other direction. So you have to be adaptable. I think it's going to continue to change. I think there are certainly perks of both, working in the office or working from home. And, I commonly joke around about half my team is roughly my age and half are, early mid 20s. Well, those my age are more well-established. We own bigger homes and have a place that we can set aside for, an office. Well, guess what? We all have small kids and puppies and whatever else that is a distraction. Now, the younger ones in my office, none of them own big homes yet. Most of them, live in a smaller place with a significant other, a friend, or roommate of some sort. Well, they don't have the kids' distraction. They have nowhere to go. So they're, working from their counters in their apartments and whatever else. And so it's a balance and it's going to continue to change for sure.
Absolutely, Casey. I totally agree. And you know what? We have to continue to morph with the changes that are happening out there. And nothing's going to be static anymore, I feel.
Okay.
And I think it changes a lot industry to industry too. I mean, there's some industries where you just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it's a construction company, you have to be on the site. You can't do that from home. So that's now IT is obviously a lot different than that. So.
Well, we have time for one last question. I didn't see any more in the chat. We have about 5 minutes. So if you have a question, please feel free to post it. Otherwise, I have one more for the group. So we're talking about people resigning, but we also had a lot of people stay through the pandemic that stuck it out. whether it was hard or because they wanted to, or they just needed the job. How do you re-recruit your staff? How do you keep them and thank them during this time? Would you ever consider having proactive conversations with your teams about resigning?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Casey.
Well, again, I think this is the common theme is every case is different. The young folks in my office were losing their minds when I wasn't allowing anybody back in here. Just a little sidebar. My first year of buying this company, I tripled our square footage in a brand new office. And then a week and a half later, we got shut down. That was a big pill to swallow for first time business owner. And we just built out this office. I was slow to go back. A lot of people went back early. We were out all of last year, and then we finally did kind of an abbreviated version to start this year. And the younger folks, they wanted back in for the most part because they found themselves distracted at home, or they didn't have a place to work. Most of the older ones had issues dealing with kids' remote schedules and whatnot, and so it's going to be different. And so I try to personalize it for each one. Hey, what do you want? What do you need? Like, I've got somebody that works a part-time schedule that historically wasn't my favorite or my first choice, but it works out perfectly now. And so we're all continuing to learn and evolve as business leaders, and we have to listen to our team. You have to be willing to listen and take their advice and suggestions, and it's not just going to be black and white.
I agree, Casey. And, one of the things is, and I will be the first to admit that healthcare has been probably slower to change because we know that we have patients to care for, and so we need to make sure that we have staff. But, to your point, Taylor, it's looking at that one-to-one communication. It's not afraid to say, hey, what are you looking for? Is this the place that you want to be? How can I help you grow? And having those stay interviews with your team on a regular basis, but also not being afraid to think outside the box. And I always say now, I'm saying, don't say never. How can we make something different work? And just being there, being open for suggestions, and just making sure that you're hiring for fit, for culture, is another piece that we have found kind of difficult at this time, but one that we need to really get back to.
Yeah, and coming from the small company perspective, having good hires is extremely important, but it's almost more important to retain your current staff. And so while we can't offer everything, we large 401k matches, things like that as we grow, it's important for us to be transparent with our employees of when we can do those things, and putting even their career, but also the perks of the company on a roadmap, so that everybody knows, okay, they're not here yet. Those benefits, those perks aren't here yet, but they're coming. Here's when we anticipate it. Because if you leave them in the dark, that's when they start, people start to look and be like, well, maybe I can just go somewhere else. But obviously being transparent with your employees, like I said, it's extremely important to keep them around, because turnover is killer in a small company. So it's very, very important for us to have those conversations to keep that staff as we continue to grow.
Awesome. Well, that brings us right up to time. I want to thank each one of our panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us. And thank you everyone for joining and asking really great questions. Like I said earlier, this has been recorded. Everyone has graciously offered to be connected with via LinkedIn. However, especially if you're reaching out to Casey, please make sure you say why you're reaching out. Otherwise, he may not respond to you. So thank you.
Don't make me sound like a jerk.
Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thanks so much,
Taylor.
everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your
Bye.
week. Take care.